Today, I'm going to talk to you about 10 things I wish I knew before decluttering my sentimental items. This is the second episode in my series of what I wish I knew before starting to declutter. These things will save you time, energy, and stress as you decide what to do with 20 to 30 years of stuff. So let's get started. The very first thing I wish I knew before I started decluttering is that there were 4 categories of sentimental items that I had. I wished I had gone through these one by one versus all at once. First category of sentimental items are inherited items. These are items that were not yours to begin with, but that you now own. The next category are items from your youth or your childhood, and these are usually your oldest category of items. The third one are items that are sentimental to you from your adulthood. And a lot of times this is your largest category of items. And last but not least, items that you saved for your kids that are sentimental. The very first category of items that we have is inherited items, and these are belongings that we have that were not ours in the first place. This category can be especially difficult to go through if you lost someone you loved. Now, I had to go through this 3 times in my life so far. Once with the loss of my mom, once with the loss of my grandmother, and once with the loss of my dad. The first thing I wish I would have known is that I didn't have to take an item if I didn't love it or it evoked bad feelings for me. Number 2 on this is that I wish that I didn't take anything out of obligation. Now, that rooster I mentioned in my previous video, that was definitely one of those items I took out of obligation. I should have just passed it on to another family member or someone that would love it. Which is my next point. Don't rush a decision. If your loved one passes away and you have something of theirs that you're questioning whether you should keep it, just keep it. But when the time is right, probably 6 months to a year down the road, then you go ahead and ask yourself a couple of questions. Do you love it? Would you miss it if it was gone? And would you have chosen it in the first place? That was a biggie for me. Would I have chosen that rooster? No. Does it fit in my design of my house? Do I like the colors? Colors really matter to me. I don't know about you, but it really matters to me. If I'm surrounded by colors that don't uplift me, it really drags me down. Is it useful? Or do I have something like it already? An example would be my dad's flashlights and his tools. Now, a person can only have so many of those things, right? But Dad had quite a lot. So what I chose to do is keep a few for myself, things that were a hole in an area like my tools that I needed, such as screwdrivers, pliers, whatever. And then I grouped up the rest of these things into little piles, and I had my nephew or my nieces or my kids go ahead and select what they needed. And it worked out so great. Everybody got a little piece of Papa, and it was just wonderful. And to boot, it was a useful item. Little intermission. Please subscribe to my channel. Please like this video, and please leave me a comment below. I would absolutely love it if you gave me some ideas that I haven't covered here. Moving on to sentimental items from your youth or your childhood. I want you to know that these items don't define you. With or without them, you're still you. Don't need a baseball jersey or a tutu to remember fondly your childhood or your youth. And sometimes these items, like a yearbook for instance, can evoke bad memories if you didn't have a good time in school. So don't hang on to them. Me personally, that's exactly how I felt. My husband, he didn't have the same experience, so he likes to keep his yearbooks and he still goes through them. Sometimes these items can make you focus on the past and not in the present. Now, this bear I got when I was 5 years old from my grandmother for my birthday. Do you remember Montgomery Ward's? They used to have a store in my neighborhood in Detroit called Montgomery Ward's. And one day, my mom and I were in the store and they had these bears displayed everywhere. I wanted one so bad, but she told me no. And then my grandma called and asked, what did I want for my birthday? And so she told her. And this is literally is one of the best gifts I ever got as a child because I wanted it so bad and my grandma showed up with it. So it was awesome. This guy is not stuffed in a bin. I actually keep him on my shelf in my closet so I get to enjoy him. My husband has a couple baseball mitts from his childhood and he actually uses them every time he plays ball with the kids. These are examples of some of the items that you should keep, something that's useful, something that evokes wonderful memories. Now, what I wish I knew was when I was going through these sentimental items from my childhood, I needed to stop and think, do I really need these things? How often do I look at them or use them? And do they serve any purpose at all? And most of all, if they don't, well, I want my kids to have to go through these things one day, and then they have to make a decision on whether or not they should stay or go. Oh boy, those adult sentimental items. A lot of times it starts when you get married or you graduated from college. Oftentimes when we're raising our kids and, having a family, these items just get shoved into a closet or a storage space and we forget about them. Figure we'll just sort through them at some other time, but that time really just never comes, does it? And they just pile up over the years. Maybe these things are from your work life where you received a plaque or an award that was so meaningful to you. It might be hobbies like I have, where I was loving scrapbooking, for instance, and that's just not what I'm doing these days. And my husband has a huge book collection here and baseball paraphernalia. He's a huge sports fan. He really enjoys that stuff. But when we were going through his things, I asked him to just think about the ones that were the most meaningful. Or is it just something that he thought that he would like, or that he was gifted that he never really bonded with? A huge category of sentimental adulthood items are pictures. I don't know about you, but I have a cabinet, and every time my kids would come home with school pictures or I would develop some pictures, I would just shove them in the cabinet. I was sort of organized at the time. I had these giant Ziploc bags and I would divide these pictures by kid. But what I wish I would have known is I should have tossed out any bad ones. I should have tossed out the excess. I should have tossed out duplicate pictures or pictures that were not good. When you're going through your sentimental adult items, because it is so expansive and a lot of times you have collections even, be ruthless. Make sure that you're asking yourself those hard questions. And especially if you don't love it, feel free to part ways with it. Don't keep a gift either if it's out of obligation. Your loved one doesn't want you to be bogged down with all of this stuff. If we're being honest with ourselves, we're going to have our favorite items. My daughter said one time, and I'll never forget it, Mama, you have all of these bags, for instance, but you're always going to veer toward that one that you love. And that's how I try to make my choices when I'm going through my adulthood clutter. What do I truly love? What am I going to reach for? One adulthood sentimental item that I will always keep is this necklace. I wear it all the time and I enjoy it. It reminds me that I climbed a 13,000-foot mountain in Colorado. It was one of those experiences that challenged me, and I also realized that there's so many more things that I want to do. I don't know about you, but my kids' sentimental items are one of my toughest because I have so many fond memories of them when they're little or growing up or their achievements. I had 12 bins total for my kids. That doesn't include myself and my husband. So each kid had 3 bins, and then I had 4 giant bins of toys. Giant. They were 4 feet by 2 feet by 2 feet on wheels. I had them piled so high that I couldn't even reach them. I'd have to ask my husband to get them down anytime I wanted to stick something in them or get something out of them. What I really wish I would have known before decluttering my kids' sentimental items is that I should have gotten rid of more, because it would have saved me so much time and decision making later. Another thing I wish I would have known before decluttering, but I eventually did it, is have each of my kids meet with me with their stuff and just go through it together. And I need to respect their decisions once they make them and not try to talk them into keeping something that they don't want. Another thing that I wish I would have known, but now I do, is that I no longer encourage my kids or make them feel guilty about keeping something just because I spent money on it. My kids are not ungrateful. They're just being honest, and I need to respect that. Also, when deciding what sentimental items to keep, I wish I would have known that I didn't have to always shove things in a bin. One thing I decided to do was get some of the drawings that my kids made me when they're little and put them with my Christmas items so that every year at Christmas I can get those out and put them on my bulletin board where I can enjoy them. But if you do decide to keep some stuff in storage like me, please keep a curated collection that you really enjoy and love. Having a smaller quantity of items like that will allow you to easily access them and pull them out and reminisce. For my family, my husband and I each have one bin, and our kids each have 1 or 2 bins. And I did keep 2 basketfuls of toys just in case I have little kids around one day. After my dad passed away, that was a huge wake-up call to me. I decided right then and there that I am not going to keep any of the items that I don't truly love or find useful. After going through his house, and that was the 3rd house I had to do this to, I decided I don't want that for my family. I only want to keep items that are useful or that I love. And at that time too, I also talked to my kids and I went through the house with them and I said, do you love this? Because I've been keeping it for you. Or do you think eventually you might like this? And when I got their input, I decided, you know what? I am not going to keep these items in my possession any longer. If I didn't love or use them, I could let them go. And I highly suggest that you ask yourself these same questions. Just remember, after you've decluttered all of your sentimental items, remember to go through your bin or bins at least once a year. Just go through those items and see if there's anything that you'd like to pull out and get rid of at that point. And there might be other items that you want to add. I hope you enjoyed this video. I will be putting out episode 3 next Wednesday. And if you haven't watched it already, please watch episode 1 of what I wish I knew before I started to declutter.